Hello world! Welcome to my channel. This is the 7th update on the development of the game I'm making entirely on my own. Since the last update, the game now has a finished intro screen and also an in-game menu with various game options: music, volume, load, checkpoints, exit game, and so on. The basic stuff. The storytelling screen that will appear every 10 completed levels of the game is finished also, and preparations are being made to create the final demo version of the game. So I will be talking a bit about all of this, plus how is it like to be a game developer at the point where I am now, working on the game for some 2 years now. We will continue after a brief intro. So now the game does not just start with the first level, but instead there is a neat intro. The game starts with my Villingor logo with some big and small letters. If you want a writing to look professional, just be sure to have some big and small letters. Very important. I'm serious. There is no practical reason for the letters to not be of the same size and the same font type, but it would not look as nice at all. That is what I learned here. Next, I'm paying homage to the game engine I'm using, the beautiful Godot. Again, big letters, small letters, see? Here I was quite worried of not being able to make the Godot logo look good. I'm happy now with the result. However, this Godot logo, it's just not for me. I even tried redesigning the logo somewhat. It did not work. Godot Game Engine is a beautiful software, just this logo, I think it needs some improvement. And the next screen is the game main menu. I still lack the music, so I will improvise some right away. Ta 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 ta. The final intro music will sound even better. I made an extra effort to make the game logo appear in a fancy way. I think it was worth it. Now the game has the menu with various options. I know, game menus are not the most exciting, sexy thing about any game, for sure. I have yet to hear somebody say, "Dude, did you see how awesome is the menu in this game?" It's like assholes. They are very important, we all need them, but we don't like to talk about them. However, since I spent so much time and effort in making this particular menu, I look things a bit differently now. Making this menu was one of the most complicated things to do in this game, programming-wise. I was surprised by that. So, in this particular menu, we can adjust music volume, sound effects volume, can load checkpoints. There will be a checkpoint every 10 levels of the game. These checkpoints will be auto-saved the moment the player reaches level 10, level 20, level 30, and so on. There is an option to reset checkpoints if the player wants to start the game fresh, maybe without the temptation of save points. And exit game button is what it looks like, and it does what it seems it should do, and that is, it exits the video game. And what next? What next? How do I proceed with the game? If only there was a button to start a game. If only I made a big red flashy writing to start a game. But I did, so let's click on that. Here is the storytelling screen, and in this particular case, before the first game level, there will be a narration of chapter 1 of the game story, and it will be kinda short, just few sentences. The text scrolling on the screen right now is just some random words for demonstration purposes only. Also, there is a skip button. Ah, the sacred skip button. One of the worst things in games is unskippable storytelling. Such an agony. But not here. Let's skip. And here we are at the beginning of the first level. Some improvements, big and small, have been done here. For example, now there is an audible cue when the enemy is hit, the thud sound. I think it adds a lot to the game immersion, gives a more tangible sense of accomplishment. Some improvements are not so obvious, but require quite a lot of job. For example, I made the enemies make the hurting sound when they are hit. And that is all good and well, but then when the hurting sound happens somewhat at the same time, the previous sound is cut by the new one. I made these enemies to moan randomly, so to just show you the point. See how only one sound can be played at the time. If they overlap, the previous sound is clipped, so that was no good. So, as usual, when something doesn't work, I had to investigate. So, in this program I'm using to make the game, the Godot game engine, these ones here are nodes and are used to perform different tasks, counting time and trigger events, or put textures, drawings on the screen, and so on. And the problem was that the node that I assigned to play sound effects can only play one sound at a time. Did not know that. Now I know. To solve the problem, I needed to create a new scene. A scene is a folder of sorts that contains nodes. This first level is one scene, this options menu is another scene, each enemy is a separate scene, and so on. So I created a new scene and made that scene play the enemy hurting sound. And now, anytime the enemy is hit, an instance of it, or in other words, a copy of it is created. It plays the sound and then it auto-destructs. I can run just that single scene by selecting it and pressing this button here. For any enemy that is hit by the player, a new copy of the enemy hurting sound is created. So many can exist at the same time, and voila! Here I added a visible circle to the enemy hurting sound scene just to make it visible when the scene is created and when it self-destructs. I just find this process of making things work very interesting, making sounds and pictures and then making them move to create a living world. I just find that thrilling. If you are still watching this video, chances are you do too. Some other new features added are the slow motion enabler code, so that I can slow down the game for testing and fine-tuning the game difficulty. Later on, for that same purpose, I coded a God mode, the option to make the player immortal. And also because of the God mode, I added these blue rectangles at the top and the bottom behind the visual boundaries of the game. We can call them blue rectangles of doom, because everything that collides with them is disintegrated. So when the God mode is on and enemies get beyond the visual boundaries of the screen, they don't go on forever but are killed off by the blue rectangles. Anything that gets out of the screen, if not stopped in some way, would continue to go on and exist to infinity and tax precious CPU power. There are still more added features and fixes to the game, but for variety's sake, let's change subject. So, how is it like then to work on a video game for 2 years? Well, I can start with the positives and say it's exciting, fun. I learn a lot every day. I'm living my dream and it's quite beautiful. I'm doing something that makes sense to me and something I'm proud of. But all mentioned above is easy. I always like to talk more about negatives because that is difficult. That's where the challenge is, and also where growth and progress is. We do not grow on pleasant experiences, because if I'm enjoying myself, why change anything? When I'm in pain, on the other hand, it's a different story. So, what is the downside of developing a game for 2 years? Well, fear, and a lot of it. Will the game be a success? Will I be able to finish it? How will I pay my bills? Will I be forced to get a job that will kill me inside? Will the lightning strike my house and fry my computer? Or even worse, will my house catch on fire and burn everything I have with it? I know, I make it sound somewhat funny, and it sounds nuts and exaggerated, but these are thoughts we all have to deal with. Maybe your fears are different. Maybe you are afraid of the flawed or of losing a steady, secure job. But we all have to deal with fear. So my solution is get drunk and beat your wife. Yeah! No, don't beat anyone. Unless you need to stop a crime from happening or something like that. But seriously, what I have learned, what I have experienced, is that when we are in a situation of constant everyday fear, and if we do not try to escape that fear, not try to make it go away, but instead we observe it, feel it, get familiar with it, so to speak, after some time a wonderful thing happens. Fear loses its grip over us, and I realize it's all in my head. All these negative thoughts are not for real. They are not the future. I do not know the future. Nobody does. I may drop dead tomorrow, or one of my drawings that I sell online could go viral and maybe make me thousands of dollars tomorrow. All is possible. So I wondered, why do I have such negative predictions of the future? I may as well predict a positive outcome. That seems more beneficial if I'm going to think about the future at all. And so, what I do is try to observe my emotions all day, every day, and when I realize I'm feeling negative emotions, I identify what negative thoughts are behind those negative emotions, like I will not be able to pay my bills or the game will fail and so on. Then I realize it's just a thought in my head. It is not real, not a certain prediction of my future. It's just a story my brain is making up. I replace the negative thought with a positive one, and that new positive thought, like the game is gonna be a great success, I will sell millions of copies worldwide. This new positive image is again not the future, but just an image in my head. However, it creates all kind of positive, beneficial effects. It makes me to be relaxed, be less stressed out. It creates a kind of a warm, nice feeling inside. Also, it gives me more energy to develop the game. And also, I better envision my goal, so it makes me more focused on achieving what I desire. In brief, thought of success leads to success. Thought of failure leads to failure. The thing is just that for most of us, our brains are programmed from childhood to predict disaster. And that actually is what creates disasters in our lives. However, we are at the end of this video. I wish you all the best and see you in the next one.